Hey there, so I'm going to explain the story of my Gacha Life movie, The Beginning is the End. If you haven't seen it, then go watch it. What are you doing? Anyways, let's begin with the past. It plays in a pretty normal world, a world just like ours. There, Nico lived happily with his family. Well, until one day. The best scientists of the world were all working on one project. They wanted to open a portal to a new world. Why? For science, of course, but also for resources. And would you look at that, they actually managed to succeed. A portal opened up, revealing another world. They celebrated and shook hands to congratulate each other. They noticed too late that there were creatures coming near the portal from the other side. These, without hesitation, jumped through and killed everything in sight. Soon, no scientist was left to close the portal, and so the monsters just kept on coming out. It turned out the outer world was already destroyed by these creatures. Nothing was left there, and the monsters were getting hungry. The people were overrun by them. In just one day, so many lives were taken. Also, Nico had to experience that. He was up in his room when he heard a breaking and screaming. Running down the stairs, he witnessed one of these monsters eating his mother and sister. Being unable to do anything, he just sat there crying until he couldn't take it anymore and called out for his family. The monster now noticed him and tried to kill him as well, but the boy ran as fast as he could, leaving everything he'd ever loved behind. Being 10 years old at the time, all he understood was that he is in constant danger now. His father was at work and probably already dead. At least he thought that. In truth, his father managed to come home, but it was already too late. With his wife and daughter being dead and his son missing, he developed a deep hatred for these creatures. And that was what kept him alive until he got to the military. Nico was wandering around the broken city he once knew differently. The buildings were destroyed. Corpses were everywhere. All things, the concrete, the sky, the water, the walls, were red. The boy survived by hiding and running. He wanted to live, but he didn't know what for. Soon he didn't find any more food that was edible. He refused to eat human flesh, so he was prepared to starve himself until something else would come up. He watched these creatures fight each other to death. Surprisingly, they never ate one another. At some point, Nico was at death's door. All he could think about was something to eat. Then he found one of the monster's dead body. In his madness, he ate it. And so he survived another day. The meat wasn't that tasty, since it was raw, but it was enough. Later, he tried to throw it up because of his disgust with himself, but it wouldn't come out. He knew it was a bad idea in the first place, because his body was aching now. He had such a headache, he thought his brain was being eaten. For a few days, he couldn't move. He had luck that no monster found him. He got hungry again pretty soon, but he didn't want to move because of the pain. The hunger got stronger and stronger, until it was more painful than anything else. Finally, walking around, he searched for another corpse of a monster. He could almost smell it. And then he found it. He ate so much of it that it was literally in his throat, not going down any further. He soon collapsed of the lack of air and new pain that was coursing through his body. As he woke up, he felt different. He could see everything clearer than before. There were smells in the air, and he could hear fire burning, but nowhere near him. The skin felt stronger, like it could withhold anything. He felt like he could take on the whole world. He was scared. What was happening to him? There had to be side effects from eating weird alien creatures, but rather than kill him, it made him stronger. He was worrying that he might become something else than human. He decided he needed help, so he searched for humans once again, not like he did before. After a few days of wandering through the city and eating more monsters that were already dead, he finally found humans. They were wearing strange masks and armor, but they smelled like humans, so he approached them, calling out for help. They looked at him weirdly, like not sure what was standing in front of them, but Nico didn't notice. He was so relieved to find someone that he cried and broke down. For a moment, he felt like a child again. Everything came up, and he was now telling them how he watched his family die. They took him with them into one of the bases. They got his information and looked up if he had any relatives that lived in another base. They found his father, who now was a soldier. They sent him a message. Meanwhile, they checked up on Nico's health. He seemed healthy, but there was something weird with his blood. After many tests and failed theories, they asked him if he had eaten something weird. He, wanting to get help, told them everything. His father arrived soon, but before he could see his son, was taken aside by the doctors. They told him that Nico's DNA seemed to be fusing with the monsters that he ate, turning him into one of them. The only thing keeping him human was his mind. They told him that they could maybe save him, but it was a risk to even try it. One wrong step and Nico could turn into one of those creatures. Nico already heard some doctors after some tests went wrong. His father already made up his mind. He knew what he had to do. He went to his son, who was so happy to see him. He told him to follow. Nico, of course, did what he asked. The walk was quiet. Nico thought they would escape or something. Brought into the sewer, he suddenly had a strange feeling. Then, 4 of the soldiers with special equipment came out of nowhere and surrounded him. His father wanted to kill him. He didn't see him as his son, but as a monster. One of those monsters which destroyed his life. Nico was now overwhelmed by emotions. The person who promised to always be there for him, the only person left from his family, wanted him dead. He lost the last sanity of his mind and broke out, killing everyone around him in the process. He now had no one left. There was no point in being human anymore. So he let go of everything. The humans had hoped to end this since the monsters weren't really intelligent. But now, with this new being that arrived, nothing would be left. Nico, who was just like the monster, still had his human intelligence. The creature saw that and followed his orders. After 3 years, the world was destroyed. No sign of humans, animals, or even nature itself. He looked at his work. He should be proud, but he was sad. He was so sad and angry at himself that he closed out his eye. That one was almost blind. He could only see outlines of everything, but it brought his human conscience back. All he wanted was to go back to a normal life. He wanted friends and dreams, but nothing was there anymore. So he decided to leave this world behind and make a new one. To get the powers to do that, he killed all monsters that were left, which as well took 3 years. Now he was a being no one could stop. He became a god, creating a new timeline where the world was not overrun. For some reasons, not only humans inhabited that world, but also humans with animal features. He saw those on a poster in his sister's room once. So to remember her, he, without knowing, created them. Each timeline was almost the same. He went to a high school with always the same people. Every time it was different how their personalities were and with which one he made friends. But in the end, something always happened to make him lose control, and Limbo, who was the monster inside of him, erased the whole timeline. Nico always erased his own memories and replaced them at the start of a timeline. So it was always even more frustrating when he remembered everything. Limbo was so influenced by Nico's wishes that he didn't stop him from keeping himself in a limbo. a place where he trapped himself in to live the life that was stolen from him. So this was it. I hope I answered all of your questions. If you have any more, then ask them in the comments and I will reply. This turned into almost like a book, but well, you know, I couldn't keep myself from going there. Thanks for watching anyway, and I'll see you soon.